Welcome to a special edition of Grid Tonight. We will be discussing Black History Month and motorsports with the African American Racial Association co-founder Christopher Harris, plus motorsports news right here on Grid Tonight.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish, and with me, as always, Joe Samaniego. Feel free to comment in the chat box below, ask questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. We have a special Black History Month feature for you later tonight, but first, let's start off with the latest news regarding the pandemic's impact on motorsports.
Of course, as we all know, we're approaching nearly 1 year since the global pandemic started, and of course has changed the lives for everyone inside and outside of motorsports. One of the big things, of course, yesterday morning, the sad news of Fausto Bersini passing away from COVID-19. That rocked the motorcycle racing industry. The two-time 125cc world champion and team manager passed away at the age of 60. Of course, he founded a racing team which raced in MotoGP, Moto2, Moto3, and the Moto E program. And last year, Bradley Smith and Alec Espargaro raced for the team in MotoGP. Meanwhile, on Monday, NASCAR fined and suspended Chip Ganassi for COVID-19 violations at Daytona. Officials say he was penalized for bringing into the competition area a non-essential individual that was restricted from the foot point. Ganassi fined $30,000 and barred from this weekend's race at Homestead, Miami. Both of his cars are still allowed to race this weekend. We know in several area cases are going down, vaccinations are rolling out, but with this week's tragic reminder, do we also have a way to go for essentially getting back to normal?
Yeah, definitely, Joe. We have a way to go, and it's not just several areas where cases are going down. It's actually going down all across the country and globally as well. It's really stunning to see such a sharp decline in number of COVID-19 cases all over the world. Yes, I'm really happy to see that. I'm sure a lot of other people are, but there's one thing that we must realize: don't let your guard down. We still have a very long way to go, and it was really unfortunate hearing the sad news from MotoGP. And then I'm really glad to see NASCAR's taking the entire thing seriously once again for the second consecutive season. I know a lot of people are going to say that is stupid that they suspended Chip Ganassi for that. But hey, if we have one massive outbreak in the garage, that could derail the season for a little while and put on pause before having to start back up. So NASCAR has to do what they have to do to keep the show running. Same thing for all the other series out there. And just because things are starting to finally get better after such a dark, depressing winter, we still don't need to let our guard down. Just need to keep doing what we're doing, and one day, all of our hard work and sacrifices will be rewarded.
As you said, the NASCAR president last year sent that strong memo out to all the teams that one spread of this virus could jeopardize the entire season. And of course, NASCAR won the longest racing season out of any sport, 36 events, plus, of course, the off season being so short. No other sport has an event season that long. Last year, MotoGP, of course, was the first series to be affected by the pandemic. They postponed their season opener, which was prior to Formula One and IndyCar season opener. And then, of course, NASCAR, they completed 4 races, the West Coast Swing, Daytona, and then the pandemic brought everything to a halt. And unfortunately, we've seen drivers across series test positive, a string of Formula One drivers during the off season recently. Are the series doing enough? Or are there people just becoming too antsy to return back to normal now?
Oh, Joe, people are tired. I'm tired. My family's tired. My friends tired. Everybody's tired of the way things are right now. It's been almost a year since we've been under these restrictions. Have to wear masks, socially distance, not do all of the things that we're used to doing in life. Life's been really weird for this past year or so, and it's just really getting old for a lot of people out there. It's really frustrating not be able to attend a family member's birthday party. I mean, some people do it anyways because people are gonna always do what they want to do. But some people haven't seen their family members in a long time, or had the type of fun. And when you're looking at college students, high school students who are seniors, They aren't getting that normal senior year, that the homecoming football game, homecoming dance. I know some high schools do that. You know, prom, high school prom, not gonna happen. Didn't happen last year either here in my area. So a lot of people are gonna be missing out on memories, and when you add all of that into the equation, missing out on things and memories that you'll never get back. I think in general, not just in the racing community, just the human population is starting to get really tired, and they just want to get back to normal. I think that's when people become more vulnerable and let their guard down because they're just ready to move on with life.
I do agree. I feel everyone at this point is getting tired of being in a pandemic situation. You can only handle it so much. The series, I do feel they are doing an overall good job, especially, we didn't see a mass spread of the virus in any series that brought a series to a halt. Big thing though, of course, the series, they may now want to start looking into, okay, we just got to re-emphasize the policies we have that we can't have a spread event. Definitely just something where I do feel the series have been doing good enough, but we're all getting to that point where we're just ready to sort of go back to normal, how everything was before. While we are fortunate to have racing and continue with championship series, we still have to remember with this global pandemic, people are hurting, family members, especially family members that lost loved ones. We always just got to be mindful of the people that are in and out of motorsports that are going through this.
Hi guys, Matt White here from the Grid World Motorsport League, checking in for the first time in 2021 on a Wednesday because the Grid World Motorsport League Top 10 is officially out and we have a leaderboard for the first time in the year. Asian Le Mans Series Heavy, of course, they were a new addition to the World Motorsport League Championships this year, and the 4 races at Dubai and Abu Dhabi have already been completed for the season. And we have a top 10 which consists of all Asian Le Mans Series competitors at this moment. It will change, of course, this coming weekend. Manuel Maldonado and Rory Pettinen are joint top of the table on 18.75 out of a possible 25. 3 races starts a minimum to get into the Grid World Motorsport League in 2021, and the third Cup and Xfinity Series races this weekend at Homestead mean that the main series regulars in those championships will become eligible this week. Austin Cindric is already eligible and he's 13th overall at this moment in time, but we expect him to rise into the top 10 this weekend. Just sticking with NASCAR, Christopher Bell, obviously the big winner on Sunday at Daytona on the road course. He was our performer of the weekend and he got the award for that we posted up on the Grid World Motorsport League on Twitter on a Tuesday. On Wednesday today we've had our race rewind from the Grid video vault, and it has spun us back to 2007 and the Busch Series race in the spring at Dover. So we've got the link posted over there on Twitter, so if you want to check that out, please do so. Tomorrow we'll post our calendar for the weekend and we're very much looking forward to the weekend. NASCAR at Homestead, as I've already mentioned. The first 2 races of the Formula E season in Saudi Arabia, and Supercars kicks off their season at Bathurst for the Mount Panorama 500. Very much looking forward to that. And WRC is back, round 2 for them, the Arctic Rally in Finland. They are all, of course, scoring events in the Grid World Motorsport League. We'll have another update on Twitter on Monday. I expect big changes in the top 10 with the NASCAR guys coming in. And we'll have another video for you as part of the show next week.
Thank you, Matt. Next, to our distinguished guest, sit back, open your eyes and ears for our special feature. Grid Network honors Black History Month with a new partner. Kobe sits down with Christopher Harris from the African American Racing Association to discuss Black History Month and motorsports.
February is a special time of the year for me and many others in the Black community. It's Black History Month. We honor Black people for their significance and how they changed American history forever. Throughout the years in school, K through 12, my history classes were very interesting because we never really got into many topics highlighting Black people in American history. Of course, we talked all about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat on the bus, And a local story for me, the Greensboro sit-ins at Woolworth's lunch counter when 4 students at North Carolina A&T Aggie Pride refused to leave after being denied service. Joseph McNeil, Franklin McCain, David Richmond, and Ezekiel Blair Jr. The same building that housed Woolworths is now home to the International Civil Rights Center and Museum. It's located at 134 South Elm Street in Greensboro, North Carolina. I want to highlight another notable name. He passed away last year, unfortunately. The great Congressman John Lewis. An important lesson he taught: the world shall live on forever. It's okay to get in trouble as long as it's good trouble. There are so many important figures that we honor in Black History Month, but unfortunately, we don't have the time tonight to name everyone and all of their accomplishments. However, we do have time to discuss Black history and motorsports. When you think of Black people in motorsports, here are some of the names that immediately come to mind: Wendell Scott, Willie T. Ribbs, Sir Lewis Hamilton, Bill Lester, Bubba Wallace, Antron Brown from NHRA, and many others. Joining us for a special edition of Grid Tonight, Black History Month in Motorsports, we have the co-founder of an organization that deserves way more recognition for shining light on historical Black figures in the motorsports community. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to the founder of the African American Racers Association, Christopher Harris. Hey man, we're so glad to have the African American Racers Association and Grid Network uniting for this special Black History Month program. I want to start off by asking you just simply, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to be on here. I've been watching you guys on Facebook, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're definitely excited to have you here with us. And before we talk a little bit about your organization, let's get to know you a little bit better first. You're a proud alumnus of Temple University, where you work with the Big Brothers and Big Sisters organization. During your time there, you've been very involved with grassroots programs and volunteer in underprivileged communities for over 2 decades. I've definitely read about the wonderful things that you've done, including help feeding the homeless in Harlem and Brooklyn up in New York, with another organization that you co-founded, Hands Helping Hands. So here's my question for you. Why did you decide to get involved in so many programs giving back to the community and people of color in need?
These are values that my parents instilled in me, especially my father. Just growing up, and no matter how bad you have it, we didn't grow up rich. But we've been on the bottom end of the pool and been able to work our way up. And he's just always taught me to always look out for those unfortunate. No matter how good you got it, don't forget that there's somebody that may need your help, whether it's knowledge or just your time, to help them get where they got to go. So it's been ingrained in me, and in every step of the way I've been in life, whether I had it or not, I always wanted to get involved, because to the core of me, I love helping people.
Yeah, I've always loved helping people as well, and I'm really glad that you spend a lot of your time and invest in trying to help people in need in those communities. And with the African American Racers Association, you're giving back to the motorsports community by highlighting Black people from the past, present, and future. You have the hashtag Race for Unity. Many wonderful partners supporting your organization, membership opportunities, and a place where your supporters can buy some African American Racers Association swag. And your business partner, the other co-founder, Sinclair Gordon, together, you two have built something truly incredible here. And once again, I'm just really excited to have you on this program tonight, talking about the African American Racers Association. And with that said, can you provide more context about the African American Racers Association, especially for all the viewers out there hearing about it for the very first time?
Well, I've been an executive in the motorsports industry now for almost 7 years, and mainly on the grassroots level, also working with the IHRA. I run a couple of organizations myself, the world's first roll racing organization, which is called the International Roll Racing Association, my Street Warriors program. And a lot of those programs are gauged to get guys off of the street and into racing facilities. So just meeting people and having conversations with different individuals, you don't realize the history that African Americans play in motorsports. So I was actually watching the documentary with Adam Carolla, Uppity, which is based on Willie T. Ribb's story. And going through that whole documentary, listening to Willie T. Ribb's amazing story, especially from his mouth, one thing that really caught my ear was when they mentioned the Black American Racers Association. And something about me, people call me Mr. Google. Somebody tell me something, and I'll just start researching it. And me and Sinclair were talking about this, and I researched the Black American Racers Association and saw all the amazing things that they did. And then I wanted to find another organization that existed now that was continuing that work, and it didn't exist. So me and Sinclair decided at that moment, we watched that documentary in July. We decided at that moment that we were going to create this organization, and we launched this September. And it's multifaceted on what our goals are. The first thing is to educate. Every day, as I'm researching and speaking to some of these legends, I'm learning more and more about the history of African Americans in motorsports. And I want to share that information. And sometimes we take for granted that we have certain knowledge and think everybody else has that same knowledge or understanding or access to that information. So I'm learning about different organizations and different groups, and Color Speedway Association and Brooklyn Heavy and Nelly Goins. And I said, hey, we got to let the world know about these individuals. So that's what we did. We created our Wall of Fame, and we just wanted to share information. We wanted to educate people on the heroes in motorsports that are African American. The second part of this is that hashtag that you spoke about, which is Race for Unity. That's actually our nonprofit organization. And what we're doing is we're creating programming utilizing STEM, and we're going to go into inner city neighborhoods and different neighborhoods that are underserved when it comes to motorsports. Now, my dad was a car guy. He used to sit me down on the couch and we used to watch NASCAR. I didn't want to, but he forced me to, and I became a fan of Dale Earnhardt Sr., and that's kind of what introduced me into professional motorsports. But there's a lot of kids today in the inner city who don't know who Dale Earnhardt is, who Richard Petty is, let alone Willie T. Ribbs, Charlie Wiggins, Bill Lester. So we are creating these programs in the schools to educate kids about the legends in motorsports, but get interested in motorsports in the sense of utilizing STEAM to show them how a race car works, how a go-kart works, how inertia and different things relate to motorsports and racing. In addition to that, it's bigger than just wrenching. You also have the opportunities of marketing, graphic design, so many different layers to motorsports. And we want to get these kids interested because that's the only way, one, African-American participation is going to grow in motorsports, which is giving them access to these different programs other areas have. And then two, that's the only way we're going to increase the fan base, is getting them interested in some of these things. So this is why we created the organization. And I mean, we've been super, super blessed and super lucky to be able to connect with some of the legends we had. I had an hour-and-a-half talk with Willie T. Ribbs last night. Leonard Miller, who was the founder of the Black American Racers Association, I speak to him regularly. So being able to get this knowledge from these guys and share it with everybody is it's such an honor.
Yeah, and it's been really cool listening to you talk about the African American Racer Association and everything you stand for. It's not just one thing. It's a whole bunch of things, and it comes together as one, as you mentioned, to educate. And I know one thing that's commonly said in the Black community: knowledge is power, and what you know, people cannot take that away from you. And another interesting thing that I want to note is your social media game. I think it's really, really good. Whenever I read one of your social media posts, I always learn something new. Just like one of your initiatives is to educate. You definitely educate me about a lot of things that I had no idea about. And one specific Instagram post caught my eye in particular. You brought attention to a driver from the past named Cheryl Lynn Glass, nicknamed the Lady, the first Black woman race car driver in the history of the United States. I gotta be honest with you, this fact truly stunned me because I had never heard of her before, and I had no idea that we had Black women racing during that time period. Our colleague Daniel from Racers the Girls Behind the Helmet actually covers women in motorsports all over the world. As knowledgeable as he is, Daniel had never heard of Cheryl Lynn Glass before. Why is it such an important mission for the African American Racers Association to highlight Black drivers that most people might not have never heard of?
It comes back to access of information, right? And even for me, I didn't know who she was until I started this organization and started digging deeper down the rabbit hole. So the first part is you can go to the Smithsonian, various museums, NHRA museums, and you'll get information on various drivers that are amazing drivers, that, regardless of color, have really made an impact on motorsports. But when it comes to the African American diaspora, you don't have that. So there's not one set website that you can go to and say, hey, there's information on this person, Charlie Wiggins, Nelly Goins. So we decided that we have to create that space to where you want information on African Americans in motorsports. There's that one place you could go. Now it's our job to make sure we get the right information that we're feeding to everybody, so it's accurate and relative. But for us to look for some of this information, we have to dig and there's information out there, but it's very scattered. And unless you know where to look or how to look, it's very hard to access it. So this is why we want to feed everybody this information so they can go, hey, I want about somebody Black in motorsports. Let me go to the African American Racers Association website and learn more. And then our staff is multicultural, right? So we have various colors, creeds, races, genders, sexual orientations. We don't discriminate just because we're talking about African Americans in motorsports. But everybody that's in this organization has the same goal as far as educating and informing and providing access to all this information.
And I remember during my time in college, I took an African American history class, and on the first day of class, my professor went around the room and said, "Why do you take this class?" And almost everybody in the room said, "I took this class because when I was in elementary school, middle school, high school, I wasn't satisfied with all of the information that was being taught about Black people that we just basically talked about, like Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, as I mentioned at the very top, and that was basically it, outside of some other topics, because they don't really tell you the truth about Black history. And with motorsports, I thought it was basically Wendell Scott, Willie T. Rips, fast forward to Bubba Wallace, and that was it. But with your program, the African American Racers Association, I've really opened my eyes that there's a whole lot more to the story than just a few people, and not just on the driving front. We see Black people who work on the crews, Black people who work behind the scenes in the industry. There's a lot of Black people who are working in NASCAR, whether it's in the cockpit for a race team. For a race team doing PR. Breonna Daniels was the first black woman to be a pit crew member, and the first in the Daytona 500 as well, which was a huge accomplishment. And we also had a second Black woman pitting down in Daytona as well, which is really good. Breonna definitely opened the door there for that to happen. And I'm afraid without Breonna Daniels, we wouldn't have seen another Black woman on a pit crew. So definitely speak volumes right there. And last year, we saw a lot of progressive changes in the motorsports community. When we thought a hate crime had been committed at Talladega against Bubba Wallace with the news, the entire garage area stood with him, united with the hashtag I Stand With Bubba. NASCAR President Steve Phelps even took a small moment pre-race at Atlanta to acknowledge the unrest all over the country following George Floyd's death. NASCAR took a step further, standing against all kinds of racism and bigotry, banning the Confederate flag, which has been a common sight at NASCAR tracks forever. And when that announcement came, I actually had to do a double take because I didn't believe it at all. And Sir Lewis Hamilton used his platform to fight for social justice. Formula One launched their initiative, We Race as One. Hamilton's Mercedes team turned both zero arrows black. IndyCar launched the initiative of their own, Race for Equality and Change. A part of this program is a team called Force Indy, who will fill a USF 2000 car for young Black driver Miles Rowe. Force Indy will get help from the iconic legendary organization Team Penske in the NASCAR Drive for Diversity program. We have another young Black racer, Roger Caruth, who actually appeared on our Life on the Grid program recently. He's going to be competing in the ARCA Menard Series East with Rev Racing, and Matt Siegel's team, Rev Racing, has fielded drivers who have now moved up to the NASCAR Cup Series: Bubba Wallace, Daniel Suarez, and Kyle Larson. And in your opinion, how did the motorsports community handle such a sensitive topic last year with all of this going on? And what's the future going to look like from a diversity standpoint?
Well, I know the first thing is, and you got to kind of look at history. It's a microcosm of what America is, right? There's a very dark past of American history that a lot of people do not like to acknowledge. It's more of it happened, let's kind of let it be the elephant in the room and move on from it. So a lot of these racing organizations have that same issue, to where none of the people who are involved in this in the executive parts of it now have anything to do with it. But the past, they don't want to talk about the dirty laundry, right? So what's happening now is technology, and in those times when, you know, Willie T. Ribbs was going through his thing, Wendell Scott was going through his thing, you know, they didn't have the outlets to speak. And then sometimes when you think about individuals that might have had the outlet, like Snake in the NHRA, Don Prudhomme, these guys didn't acknowledge their African American heritage because of fear of backlash, right? But now we are in a renaissance. We are in a renaissance that, you know, people of all colors and creeds are acknowledging the injustices that are happening in America today with so many different parts of the justice system, the economic system, the political system, but also they want to bring up some of that dirty laundry in the past and say, hey, just acknowledge it, and then we can move forward from it. So at a time where you had an organization that might have an NBC contract and a Fox contract, and one of their racists tried to say something, they can mute it. That's no longer the case. These individuals now have platforms like yours, like mine, like their own on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, to tell their unedited story. And now these organizations are being held accountable for those actions. So when you have somebody like Lewis Hamilton, that is the star of F1, he's one of their most accomplished drivers ever, and he decides to use his platform to talk about the things that are happening in this country. And then you have a situation that happens to Bubba Wallace, and then you have individuals who refuse to be silenced and want to use their platform for political change. It forces the hand of some of these organizations to make a difference. A lot of people don't know that NASCAR tried years ago to remove the Confederate flag from the area, and they did an exchange program where they would give you an American flag if you give us the Confederate flag, and it didn't work. But now it is working, and now they've made the stand because they've made strides in diversity and getting people up there that aren't going to tolerate it anymore. So I truly believe it's a renaissance now where you have these athletes that have platforms, whether it's given to them or they created it themselves, to speak their mind, and they don't have to filter themselves in fear of any type of backlash. And it's beautiful, and it's not. And listen, these are individuals, Black, white, Hispanic, that are all speaking up against the injustices of this country. So this isn't a Black only problem. This isn't only African Americans just standing up on their soapbox and complaining, which was, you know, the narrative in the early 80s and things of that nature. Now people are truly doing what they need to do in the face of good, and that's what our organization stands for, and that's what we love to represent and champion. So that's the difference.
Christopher Harris, co-founder of the African American Racers Association, with his business partner Sinclair Gordon. Check out their website. Follow them on Twitter, Instagram, like their Facebook page, and follow them on LinkedIn. African American Racers Association. Grid Network truly appreciates you for being here tonight and educating our viewers with your valuable knowledge. Be well, brother.
Thank you. Take care.
Such a wonderful conversation with a ton of insightful information. We need to have those discussions more often with our peers. Grit Network has never shied away from topics that can be very emotional at times, and it must be handled with care. At this growing media outlet, we plan on taking a professional, conversational approach to tackle these real world issues. We don't want to just talk about motorsports here. We want to connect it to real life, make it relatable, and hopefully you'll learn something. So Christopher Harris, once again, thank you for bringing your perspective to Grid Network. Next Formula One driver got plenty of attention yesterday at Barber Motorsports Park. Roman Grosjean tested an IndyCar for the first time with Dale Coyne Racing, Rick Ware Racing. Grosjean got up to speed quickly, but had an early off in the gravel in turn one. He described the incident by saying the track has consequences, as the drivers have to stay within the limits. If you make one mistake, it could bite you big time. Grosjean was lucky enough to escape and get back out on the track to get more laps under his belt. How important is it for someone brand new to IndyCar racing to find the limits early on and tested, rather than the race weekend itself?
It is pretty important to learn all those things you gotta learn in testing, and not just right at the racetrack during the practice and qualifying. Testing, you can make these mistakes, have offs, learn from it, And then the nice part, your team's there. They'll still be under the pressure to get the vehicle ready so you can go out there, log the laps, but you no longer have that additional pressure of, oh, we have a shorter practice window because qualifying's next and the car's wrecked, or, worse, in the race and you're done for the day. So for him to gain this valuable experience, testing the vehicle out, the differences, and of course the different natures of the racetrack as well, it's very different from Formula One FIA Grade A compared to the street courses and some of the other courses. Definitely a good opportunity for him to learn everything.
And luckily for Grosjean, his next test session coming up is March 1st at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. So definitely really good. He's going to get more track time in the IndyCar. Ed Carpenter racing driver Renus VK was the fastest overall with a lap time of 66.518, and Grosjean was 12th and the slowest, but still not a bad lap time. He was at a 67.478. He'll likely pick up more tenths and positions on the speed charts as his comfort level grows. Roman described the car as different, but everything felt great. And it reminded him of the time when he progressed through the ladder system in Europe from Formula Renault, Formula 3, and GB2 on the way to Formula 1. However, his biceps started hurting after the first run, and he responded by saying, gonna get those biceps stronger then. In addition, he said you can really feel the car and described it in a way where the driver can make a greater difference. Is this the main reason why some Formula One drivers come to IndyCar when their Grand Prix career comes to an end?
Usually when a Formula One driver leaves Formula One, especially if they're a midfield or the back of the pack, they could come into another vehicle where the driver has a greater say in how the vehicle handles, performs, and when it comes to the racing, the driver's input has a lot more meaning. I think when it comes to Indy cars, especially, this is an option where, especially Formula One drivers, we've seen Rubens Barrichello after F1. He came, did a season. They see the fun of IndyCar. A lot of times the drivers explain how they find it a lot of fun because the car slips and slides. You don't have so much of that control like you do in a Formula One car where the engineers has everything and you're at the best that you can do. And if your car is not competitive, you're not going to see the front where an IndyCar competition is much more fierce. And if you have a wet weather race, then almost anybody has a shot at winning. So definitely, I think it's something where for Formula One drivers, it is such a fun change compared to what they've been through with Formula One.
Another reason could be the environment, as Grosjean mentioned on IndyCar.com. He says it surprised him when he got to Barber Motorsports Park. He saw all the teams setting up the cars without the type of privacy you see in Formula One. Everything was just out in the open. You could go up to this place and this place. It was just like an open book instead of secluded. He mentioned chatting with former Formula One drivers, now in IndyCar, Takuma Sato, most recent Indy 500 champion, and his fellow countryman Sebastian Bourdais. After being in such a self-centered Formula One environment, Grosjean said everyone seems friendly and wants to chat when the helmet comes off. Joe, for any of our viewers out there not familiar with the Formula One and IndyCar paddocks, can you explain the difference in the culture?
It's a huge difference in the culture between Formula One and IndyCar, and especially American motorsports. Formula One, the big things to the teams, everything is done. They have their nice private garage, so the setups go in there. They've done a lot of time in the simulators. When it comes to fan access, especially in Formula One, not exactly the most fan-friendly. Very few fans make it to that paddock area, where in NASCAR, IndyCar, the drivers, you have a garage pass, you go in the garage, of course, pre-pandemic. Before the pandemic as well, IndyCar, they had it where all the drivers did mandatory autograph session for the fans. Something that we won't see so far, and with this pandemic, of course, not till later on with Formula One. So there's a huge change in culture between the two paddocks, especially here. The fans are much more interactive. And I think in the teams, where in Formula One and IndyCar, the teams are always competitive. Same time, I feel the IndyCar teams and a lot of American sports, they know, hey, we're doing this because we all share the passion. If the opponent's healthy and strong, the competition is going to be strong, and it's just going to make it a lot more fun, the championship.
Definitely Formula One and IndyCar, two different worlds. 2023 is setting up to be a historic season in sports car racing. Today, Ferrari announced the Prancing Horse will build a Le Mans hypercar prototype and debut in the 2023 FIA World Endurance Championship season. It will be the 50th anniversary of Ferrari's last hurrah, competing in the top class of a World Sports Car Championship. At the moment, we have 7 manufacturers set to be on the grid for 2023, already committing to LMH. Toyota, Glickenhaus, Peugeot, and now Ferrari. And the other prototype platform, LMDH, have Acura, Audi, and Porsche have confirmed programs for the future. LMDH will be allowed to race at Le Mans and other events on the world stage, but many are wondering if the LMH cars can race in IMSA. John DeGeese from Sports Car 365 tweeted a brief statement from IMSA saying there are no updates at this time in regards to LMH cars being eligible to compete in North America. Back when the DPI regulations came along, many thought the ACO would allow them to compete at Le Mans. Then rules were put into place where you could run the manufacturer engine, but keep the LMP2 constructed bodywork without the styling cues. For example, Cadillac could have their GM motor, but they had to run with the spec Dallara bodywork instead of their specific Cadillac bodywork that you see in IMSA today. In the end, DPI did not get to race at Le Mans, shutting the door on a unified prototype platform. Now we have an opportunity to fix the issues that went unsolved last time around. And here's the question moving forward: will IMSA pull the same type of move the ACO did to them with DPI and prevent LMH cars from racing in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship? And Joe, it come to my attention we have a comment from a viewer. Oh yeah, Humphrey Dink I, I think he will be very strong as all Formula One drivers tend to, but surprised his pace wasn't faster. Well, Humphrey Dink, this is Roman Grosjean's very first time sitting in an IndyCar, and I do think that by the end of everything, Grosjean will be very competitive in IndyCar competition. So I'm just gonna say just let him get some laps under his belt. And the speed will just come naturally because Roman Grosjean is a solid race car driver. I think a lot of people forget that during his days racing for Lotus in Formula One, Roman Grosjean had a lot of potential, and unfortunately, he didn't really get to show that towards the latter end of his Formula One career.
Yeah, I would agree. A lot of potential. Didn't really get to demonstrate it, especially with Haas and the Haas team situation. It's one of those deals, but definitely encourage everyone to share their comments, opinions on the chat room, and of course in the comment section. Now for some quick takes. NBC sportscaster Steve Letarte will be crew chief for Corey LaJoie. Corey LaJoie's current crew chief, Ryan Sparks, is unavailable this weekend at Homestead Miami Speedway due to COVID-19 protocols, and 2 other team members are in the same boat. Therefore, Sparks called up veteran crew chief Steve Letarte to substitute for this weekend. Letarte is a consultant for Spire Motorsports.
Last week on Grid Tonight, we highlighted NASCAR's qualifying procedures and how it negatively impacted Jordan Anderson's new Xfinity team. This afternoon, Anderson responded to a tweet from Bob Pockers regarding his tough situation, not being able to guarantee a spot in the Xfinity field until qualifying returns in May at COTA, I believe. Anderson was dealt a devastating blow, and qualifying got rained out at Daytona, and his team could not get the necessary owner's points. As a result, it could be a very long time before he has a shot at making his 2021 Xfinity season debut unless we have less cars enter a feature race in the upcoming weeks and the number 31 Chevrolet is awarded a spot before May. In the tweet, Anderson said he tried to purchase owner's points, but none were available. In a very telling and revealing statement, Anderson's last sentence in his tweet read, "If there are not enough on the market to be bought for everyone that needs them, the barrier is real."
Marco Andretti tested an LMP3 car at Sebring. Yesterday on Instagram, Andretti posted a photo of him sitting inside Andretti Autosport's Leger LMP3 car. This is the same prototype that his cousin Jared Andretti drives in the IMSA Prototype Challenge. After stepping away from full-time IndyCar racing, Marco has stated his intentions of focusing on sports car racing for the next chapter of his career.
A dirt racing star will make his NASCAR Cup Series debut next month. The guy known as Big Daddy on the dirt tracks, Chris Windom, will run the Cup race at the Bristol Dirt Track. Windom will drive the number 15 Chevrolet for Rick Ware Racing with familiar sponsorship from NOS Energy. Windom's claim to fame has been one of the 7 drivers in history to win the USAC Triple Crown, winning championships in midgets, sprint cars, and Silver Crown. NASCAR also announced the format for the Bristol Dirt Race. Friday, that race weekend will be dedicated to practice for trucks in the Cup Series. Saturday will be an extremely busy day. Trucks in Cup Series will participate in 4 15-lap heat races to set the starting grid. Then the Pinty's truck race on dirt later that night. And on Sunday afternoon, the Cup Series Food City Dirt Race on Fox at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
We invite you to check out the Grid Network and their Patreon page. Link in the video description. Join Colin keeping us on the air throughout 2021. Special thank you to all our new subscribers on YouTube and Twitter. Be sure to follow Grid World Motorsport League at grid_WML on Twitter, Grid Rankin at Grid Rankin on Twitter, and subscribe to the Grid Network right here on YouTube. If you have a pet dog or know somebody with a furry buddy, be sure to get them goodies at Publis, 10% discount for Grid Network viewers. Link in the video description below. And of course, definitely encourage everyone to tune in tomorrow for Women Racing to Win, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. And then Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, we have Daniel McFadden and Katie Jane on our program, Life on the Grid. I know this is definitely a can't miss show. Kobe's a lot of fun doing that show together. We're very excited for this Friday. And of course, Saturday, Grid Life pre-race, Formula E, Supercar season kickoff, World Rally Championship returns, and the NASCAR Cup Series. Kobe Lambeth at the Podium Finish. I'm Joe Samaniego. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time. And to our friends in the chat room, thank you so much. We enjoyed doing this for you all. We'll see you next time. Joe Samaniego here. Want to invite you to go check out Publis. Publis is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out Publis.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.